Welcome back to our class on Principles of Management. Today we are looking at Unit 3, Managerial Functions. Today's lesson is a collection of many different presentations made by others in which I've collected relevant information for us to cover as per course requirement. What are these managerial functions? There are broadly 4 managerial functions. These include planning, organizing, leading, and controlling. Of course, when you look at Luther Gulick's managerial functions, you find a broader range of functions. These include planning, organizing, staffing, directing, coordinating, reporting, and budgeting, famously summarized in the POSCOB acronym. What is planning? Planning is a process of setting objectives and determining how to best accomplish them. As such, a plan is a statement of action, spelling out steps to be taken in order to accomplish the objectives. What are the steps in the planning process? First of all, define your objectives, your goals or your targets. Here, you have to define where you want to be, how far you want to go. Then you analyze where you are. Find out where you are, and then define the gap between where you want to be and where you are. The gap between where you are and where you want to be is filled in with a plan. So to find a plan, first of all, find the alternative paths available. Choose among your alternatives. Then implement the plan and evaluate the results. In monitoring and evaluation, it takes you back to redefining your goals, redefining your objectives, redefining your targets, which again brings you back to analyzing where you are and why you are not where you want to be, and what you need to do to get to where you are. So the planning process in this case is a continuous process. There are several different types of plans. We have short-range and long-range plans. Short-range plans are plans that may span for a year or less, depending on your organization. Intermediate range plans are plans that span from 1, 2 to 3 years. Long-range plans are plans that basically range for 3 or more years. We've got plans of different ranges because people vary in their capacity to deal effectively with different time horizons. Higher management levels often focus on longer term horizons, while lower level management tends to focus on shorter time horizons. Under types of planning, we also have strategic versus operational plans. What is the difference? A strategic plan sets broader, comprehensive, and long-term action directions for the entire organization. So, strategic plans are broader, they are more comprehensive, and they tend to give the overall picture, overall direction in terms of how the entire organization will move, how every other plan will move. Operational plans, on the other hand, they define what needs to be done in specific areas to implement the strategic plans. So the operational plans are the nitty-gritties that ensures that the strategic plan is met. So operational plans would include production plans, financial plans, facility plans, marketing plans, human resource plans, supply chain and distribution plans. In planning, it is also important to differentiate between policies and procedures. Policies and procedures generally are standing plans. Policies and procedures are plans that are designed for repeated use. They spell out rules and basis for action. Policies are broad guidelines for making decisions and taking actions in specific circumstances, while rules and procedures are plans that describe exactly what actions are to be taken in specific situations. We also have budgets and projects. Budgets and projects, unlike policies and procedures, are single-use plans. They are only used once to meet the needs and objectives of a well-defined situation in a timely manner. Budgets, on the other hand, are a single-use plan that commits resources to activities, projects, or programs. So budgets can be fixed, can be flexible, and they can be zero-based budgets. Projects, like we've said, are one-time activities that have a clear beginning and a clear endpoint. They depend on project management and project schedules. We also have top-down plans and bottom-up plans. Top-down plans are plans done by management and shared with subordinates, while bottom-up plans are plans that begin with subordinates and end with management for consolidation. The key line here is the issue of participation and involvement. The bottom-up approach ensures that there's participatory planning in the planning process, which includes people who will be affected by the plans or who will be implementing those plans. We also have contingency versus scenario plans. What is the difference? A contingency plan is a plan that identifies alternative courses of action that can be implemented to meet the needs of a changing circumstance. So in a contingency plan, you make plans for the unforeseen, plans for things that you do not know. Scenario planning, on the other hand, are plans made for specific eventualities. You foresee certain contingencies and then you create plans for them. They cease to become contingency plans, they become scenario plans. We now move to organizing. Organizing is the process of grouping tasks, assigning tasks and authority, coordinating tasks and staffing positions with the right persons. It involves departmentalization or departmentation, organization structures and charts, span of supervision or span of control, centralization or decentralization of authority. It also involves delegation of authority and also staffing. What are the steps in organizing? Identify individual roles. Organizing includes identifying individual roles, the grouping of work, integrating of the total efforts, and establishing relationships. Organizational structures are created in the process of organizing. This creates an environment for effective human performance. Broadly, organizing tends to result in two types of organizational structures. These include the mechanistic versus the organic structures. What is the difference? The mechanistic structure tends to be hierarchical with high formalization and high rationalization. This tends to result in an organization that is very stable and very predictable. Organic structures, on the other hand, tend to be fluid, with teams coming from cross-cutting sections of the organization. This results in organizations that are quick and responsive and that easily coordinate and handle emergencies. We now turn to leading. Who is a leader? A leader is one who inspires, motivates, and leads people to accomplish organizational goals. Given this, not every leader can be a manager, and not every manager can be a leader. Yet every manager must be able to lead because it is part of the managerial functions. There are people who are in management but are not necessarily leaders. Because a leader is anyone who is able to inspire, who is able to motivate, who is able to push people towards accomplishment of goals, sometimes even against organizational goals. There are three main styles of leadership, resulting in three types of leaders. We have the autocratic style of leadership, which results in an authoritarian leader. We also have democratic style of leadership, which results in participative leaders. We also have laissez-faire style of leadership, which results in delegative leaders. In understanding leadership, we find that there are three main approaches to leadership. These approaches include the trait leadership, which was popular in the 1930s and 1940s. The trait leadership asserted that leadership is by nature, not nurture. Meaning, leaders are born. They are born with certain traits that qualify them to be leaders. These traits may include a certain type of voice, a certain height, a certain posture, a certain kind of charisma that they exert on others. The other approach is the behavioral theory. Here, leadership is by nature, not by nature. This implies that leading can be learned as a behavior, that through repeated action, through training, someone can learn to become a good leader. Someone can be able to provide good leadership. Lastly, we have the contingency theory, popular in the 1960s. This theory argues that leadership is situational. It is not about nature. It is not about nurture. It is about the situation faced by the leader. Certain leaders who have been successful would have failed if the situation was different. Certain leaders who have failed would have succeeded if the situation was different. Let's now look at the controlling managerial function. What is controlling? Controlling is the process of measuring performance and taking actions to ensure desired results. It has a positive and necessary role in the management process. It ensures that the right thing happens in the right way, at the right time, by the right people, in the right place. And as such, we have two types of control. We have internal versus external control. Internal control allows motivated individuals and groups to exercise self-discipline in the fulfillment of job expectations. External control, on the other hand, occurs through personal supervision and the use of formal administrative systems, where someone should come and ensure that what is happening is the right thing, at the right time, in the right way. Steps in the control process. Step 1. Establish objectives and standards. Step 2. Measure actual performance. Step 3. Compare results with objectives and standards. Step 4. Take corrective actions as needed. Let's look at these in a little bit more of details. In step 1, the goal is to establish objectives and standards. This includes creating output standards, which measure performance results in terms of quality, quantity, costs, or time. You also create input standards. These measure the effort in terms of the amount of work expended in the task. It measures the relevance of the work. Step 2. Measuring actual performance. Here, the goal is to accurately measure actual performance results or actual performance efforts. It must identify significant differences between the actual results and the original plan. Have we moved from where we were to where we wanted to be? Effective control requires measurements. Without measurements, there is no standard of control. Step 3. Comparing results with standards. Here, you compare the difference between the desired performance and the actual performance. You compare what has been done, what has been put in, against the standards of input and the standard of output. The last step of control is to take corrective action. This means taking action when a discrepancy exists between the desired and the actual performance. So you move in to correct the input effort or to correct the output. Ultimately, control is about correction. Control is about taking remedial actions. Control is about ensuring that what is being done is moving according to the standard that has been set. This marks the end of our lesson. Have a blessed day.